Hey, I see my sauces back there.
Oh yeah, a little bit of product placement, no
There we
problem.
go. That works. I
Hey,
like
look at
that.
that.
Zach's down over here behind my BYT sauces name. I got yours right behind me.
Oh,
I
that's
got
awesome.
I got some of Tim's right
Oh,
here.
there we go. Yeah.
I got my
Outstanding.
boys Bear River Bottling right here. So
Before we get started, I need to tell you, Tim, I tried that pumpkin and it's absolutely delicious.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Um,
I'm a little butthurt that he got his before I got mine.
every time I mentioned it, he's gotten mad.
I wanted to make sure it had a label before it went out to you, Zach.
It's true. I didn't get a label.
Yeah, just a little sticker on it.
Since this is the first time Tim and I have ever done this together, it'll be a little bit different, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So this will be pretty cool.
Well, not only watching Tim's episode, but I've watched most of the episodes trying to get an idea of what you're going to do. So, but I'm sure you'll put in a left turn in there somewhere for me.
It's possible, yeah.
So
I got stuff
really,
sitting on both sides of me right here.
Roger, what we're gonna do? All that shit that you've listened to so far is all Spike editing. We're just gonna sit here and roast you for an hour, and then Spike will piece it together later.
That's
Right.
true. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect
It
for
makes sense.
Welcome to Flavor Balance Heat, the podcast for hot sauce lovers and makers. I'm Spike.
Hi there. I'm Tim with California Hot Sauce Solutions.
And I'm Zach.
And this is Roger from Burn Your Tongue. Hello.
Hello.
Roger, why don't you tell us a little bit about your hot sauce history and how you got started with hot sauce?
All right. So in Utah, hot sauce is definitely a hard road, but I'm not from Utah. I'm originally from Southern California, Chula Vista. Back in California, I used to work for a company called C's Candies, which is not as big out here, but I was one of the two male managers in San Diego region. And so I used to manage Horton Plaza downtown in San Diego. There was a satellite store called Hot Licks, and then also down in Seaport Village, just a couple miles behind the mall. So during breaks and lunch, I would trade my candy samples for some hot sauce samples. And then every now and then I go down to Seaport Village and really get the experience. At the time, there's also a store in Old Town, which is another tourist trap, because I was in that outdoor angular mall tourist trap mall. So I'd been doing that for years. They got me hooked. We moved to northern Utah in 2003. Well, we went back for a wedding in 2007. I was going to the Old Town location because I had to visit. I actually ran into Craig Lerner, the owner of Hot Licks, and I was like, nobody's doing this in Utah. I was like, I miss this store so much, blah, 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 blah. Because the joke back then, and still sort of is, that the hottest thing you can get in Utah is fry sauce. At this point, Craig actually just looks at me, and he didn't know, but I was an eBayer for 12 years selling Halloween merchandise on eBay under the username Heartstoppers. And I was looking for something to switch from seasonal to full time. So it just happened to be the perfect time. And literally his question was like, so why don't you? I'm like, why don't I? And I'm like, I have licensing, blah, blah, blah. I told him about eBay, my 12-year history there selling seasonal. And he's like, well, here, let's take a seat. It's slow. So we went out to a bench and he's like, you're not my competitor. Here's some info. So here's hot shots. There's a couple other things. Set yourself up in a high traffic environment, blah, 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 blah. And about a half hour later, I walked off. And a year and a half later, from 2007 to July 1st, 2009, I kicked off live.
Wow. And how many places are you in now?
I'm in 4. So I sell at a consignment location, so I don't have to be there because I still have the golden handcuffs with the day job. And then I sell at consignment locations called the Quilted Bear locally, and then there's also stores that are owned by the Quilted Bear called Locals. And basically, I have 12-foot sections. My main headquarters section is 2 9-footers by 5 feet deep. Have about 850 sauces right now, plus or minus, fluctuating right now. And then my other locations are smaller. So 2 locations have about 440 each because they're only half size. And my smallest one, I'm probably going to let go in January, is only 173 sauces in Draper. My booths are literally 130 miles separated from north to south, and I live in the middle, sort of. I live 45 miles south of the north one and 85 miles north of the south one.
You're just kind of going all over on the weekends, I assume.
Exactly. Plus, and then plus the day job Monday through Friday and so on. So this time of year, I'm getting ready to run myself ragged.
Yeah.
But do you have your own employees, or do you piggyback on the Quilted Bear employees?
Well, pretty much that's why I do the consignment store, because it's small hours, 6-7 days a week, depending on the location. But they're just cashiers. They're just ringing it. It's just, so it doesn't have the experience I want it to have, because when I'm there doing a sampling event, I call them my Spicy Saturday samplings for the Triple S. My tagline is simply spicy stuff. And so the Spicy Saturday samplings with the alliteration, I'll at least do double a normal day, if not more. And then
Sure.
like coming up in December, I'll do $1,000, $1,500 Saturdays because just out of the store. But no, right now it's sort of just letting them clerk it, and that's part of why I pay them the commission. But it's available to everyone during all mall hours and so on.
I've
Yeah.
known Roger since probably 2014, 2015, somewhere around there.
2016, actually, I was going to tell you 2016. I met you at the California Hot Sauce Expo,
Yeah.
along with Scott Zakelin, and that's when Mikey V and I bonded together when I was out there pushing his pickle back when I was about 60 pounds heavier, and I have some of the most unflattering pictures of me holding this pickle tray while I'm sweating my ass off. But yeah, no, I met you. What's that?
Was that Anaheim?
That was at Shoreline Village in LA back in 2016.
Long Beach. Yeah.
Yes.
Long Beach.
Yep.
That was, those two festivals in Long Beach are probably my favorite hot sauce related events in this area that to date. I mean, it was a great location. The weather was perfect.
Yeah.
Did great sales. Those two were phenomenal.
I tell you what, Zach, we've had our thing about conventions over the last couple of years. I'm not much of I'm not a convention guy, but Roger's been talking to me about it for 2-3 years now. I think Roger trying to get me to do one of the conventions. Yeah. He's a proponent for me to go.
Are you an advocate for going to expos?
Honestly, yeah, they're good to get out and interact with hot sauce lovers. It's good to interact with fellow sauce makers. It's a very good PR marketing effort for sure. The financial side can be hit or miss. Sometimes they're great and sometimes they're so, but I always feel like it's at least a net win.
There we go. Hey, Roger's back.
Woo!
Yeah, I it's been hard because we're so far away from everything that it makes it hard to go to anything. And so it's been like, so is the cost worth it?
Portland.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was about to say Portland's your closest. So.
And Zach has been telling me that Portland's a really, really good one to go to. So.
Well, and then with Bear River Bottling, we went 2 years ago, and it basically doubled to tripled his business over the next year because all the exposure and everything else. And he's already been mentioned a couple times, well, at least once here last podcast, and then I'm going to mention him more than once here. But yeah, it really jumped him out. But also he was more on the professional side with the groundwork laid and everything already versus being like, a little shoot from the hip just starting, because he had already had a couple years local under his belt.
Yeah, that helps a lot. And I think we're ready for it because of that. Sorry, go ahead.
It helps take your brand into a locale that you may not have much exposure at all. If you set up in one of those places and you get a lot of the local hot sauce lovers coming through, it definitely helps, raise some awareness. Yeah,
we've got a fan base there, but we're not in any stores there. And I've tried. We're in Seattle in a few different stores, but we're not in Portland at all. It's just there's so much competition there. So it would be a good thing for us. I'm planning on it at this point.
Always good stories that come from those expos too.
Oh, yeah.
Shenanigans afoot.
Oh, Roger, what were you saying before you got cut off? Because we didn't get any of that. If you had something else you wanted to add.
Oh, I was saying about the Southern California 2016 California Hot Sauce Expo. I know that you guys are really big about something about circles. So it was set up in a nice big circle.
So it's a proverbial circle
inside
hot sauce.
Inside joke, right? Just trying to reference an inside joke there.
Yeah. I don't know if Tim knows that, but I've called hot sauce conventions hot sauce circle jerks for the last few years.
The interesting thing about that one was you would see all the people that would do the eating contest, the Reaper eating contest and everything else. They would basically walk out in the middle of that circle and then just collapse right in front of all the booths.
Oh, wow.
So everybody had a great vantage point of all of that nonsense going on.
Yeah, no, I think we definitely need to do it. I've waited long enough. It's about time. So I'm looking at Portland already now. We didn't go to another convention, actually the one out by you, Zach, specifically because we want to save the money to go to Portland now. What sauces can you name that you were kind of stunned didn't sell better?
Well, last time you guys talked a little bit about the specialty bottles and whatnot. Well, this is a specialty case. The Cajun shotgun shells, I thought were going to fly off the shelf because around here there's so many, hunters and all that going on. But a little bit of a design flaw when you think about it because it doesn't have the label. You can't read the ingredients. There's nothing. It just shows Cajuns and the address on the outside. But also people want to pick it up by the top, and then so the top pops off, and then they drop it. Inside it has the label, and then the ingredients and other stuff like that, and it's got a capsaicin kicker of like 2 million in there. But I thought these were going to fly off the shelf, and basically like people's like, I don't know what it looks like, I don't know what's in it, I want to see the sauce. It kept falling open. I broke some of them. Well, I didn't break some of them, but some people broke some. So it really became a PETA, pain in the ass for people that don't know acronyms. I work for the government, so I'm used to them. So, but I thought those were going to fly off the shelf, and I still got a bunch left. Now, another specialty bottle that I have that I thought was not going to do well is the Grenade from the General's Hot Sauce.
Those things are everywhere.
I can't keep these in stock. And like you said, I've seen these quite a bit around. There's another store called Smith and Edwards that carries them nearby me and whatnot, and I still have a hard time keeping them in stock.
I think I saw them in a with those little the little Claire's. I think I saw one in Claire's when I was in there with one of my daughters. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, so these things have been a surprise hit. So I'm the opposite of that. But yeah, those shotgun shells with all the hunters around here, I thought would fly. And
now, have you had the sauce in those?
Yeah, the shotguns. Have I had the sauce in all in both of them? Yeah, I mean, they're decent sauces. The Cajuns is more of a formulaic, and then the grenades aren't very strong. They're mainly green and red cayenne, moving up into cayenne habanero hybrid. And then now they have one that's called Reaper Actual, which is actually a Reaper sauce. But for the most part, they're cayenne and habanero, either green, red cayenne or cayenne habanero blended, or just habanero. And now they've moved up in the Reaper.
Have you ever had a really good sauce that you loved that just didn't sell?
I mean, there's so many. I've been doing this for 14 years, so there's so many that have come and gone that are. It's basically, you got your. I couldn't think of one offhand that was more of that. I was thinking more of the, the ones that just you're surprised didn't move.
I get it.
But I mean, I've had so many that I thought were good, or that were multiple award winners, or things like that I brought in off of like Scobie Awards or Screaming Mimis or things like that, and they just dogged out. So it's like, you never know unless you try. But Utah has a sweeter, milder palate overall still, and the fry sauce joke isn't still quite too far from being removed, and then there's Hidden Valley Ranch, of course. And so, that's the thing too, is you got all these geographic influences that aren't hitting in Utah, because there's one that KDB just reviewed for me, Lisa's Hot Sauce, which is a new upcomer down in Provo, Utah. And they do fermentation process, but then they also add sugar to the sauce because of Utah palate.
Oh.
So it just basically, with geographic influences and the palate of the general population and whatnot, some of them that should be doing really well just didn't, because that's just how it is here.
What do you notice people gravitating towards when they walk up to a shelf?
Actually, I have still a lot of questions for habanero and Scotch bonnet. That's still the quintessential midline for everything that's out there now, from jalapeno all the way up to Reaper. So I still have a lot of people that are standard habanero, and I'm still there too. Habanero, ghost pepper, the Reapers and Scorpions. For some reason, I've been doing this for years, and they still make me hiccup.
I think habanero Scotch bonnet is my sweet spot as well. That's where I like to be.
And then I send you shit that lights you up
always,
every day, every time.
Every time he sends me something, my response is always, "God damn, that one is hot." And he's like, "What, really? That's not bad." I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've got a mild. Yeah, everybody knows I've got a milder palate. I mean, I don't do the super hots very much. Although the Victory sauce, which I don't think I've still sent to either of you, any of you.
No, man, I've been hearing about it for like 2 months now.
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised. So today, Brian Ames posted the review of the pumpkin, and I thought he was going to say it was much milder than it was. And he's actually said it was hot. And the Victory sauce is hotter than that, much hotter than that. So I actually think that we might be somewhere in the ballpark for a change.
You're talking about this one, the pumpkin sauce?
Yeah. I love that sauce because I like it because it's more savory version of pumpkin, but it's got a good kick to it. For me, it's right. Yeah. See, look at Zach shaking his head. For me, it's hot. That's it's right in that top of the line for me. Is there a sauce that you've had that's sold really well that you never thought it would?
Well, the Grenade was definitely one. The a little bit more on the pricey side, as far as before they restructured. But the Spice Dog Provisions, I actually got one of their floor displays and whatnot, and it's been moving a bit more. But once people get past, because it's a couple dollars more than some of the average prices I sell, which is around $9.95 to $12.95. So these have actually been doing really well once they get into people's hands, or once I have them on a sample table. People will pony up the money for this. But I got this originally because I love their artwork, and actually one of the the show and tell things is not only do they have the great artwork, which was one of your other questions that you sent me, but they have a ton of swag.
Oh,
I mean, they really do the swag up. I mean, they have a little brochure that's set up called Ship Rations that has a nice, lot of graphics. They have table talkers, stickers, magnets, coasters. Yeah, I mean, they just have it all. They have little pins they send you, so they got this whole like swag package that they send you to get, either give it out to customers or do displays yourself and whatnot. So yeah, they do a really good job on the cross promoting and whatnot.
yeah, we need to up our swag game, definitely. I don't know, how do you, Tim, do you do very much, and Zach?
No, man, you get some
Not a lot on
stickers.
our end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about
Yeah.
it.
I feel like we've talked about it a little bit. We're doing a little comic book right now, but I'd like to up our swag game a bit and do some more advanced stuff just for fun. It's
Yeah,
always nice to be fun.
that's pretty much all I do are stickers and whatnot. But
What are some of your favorite labels that you've seen? And are you I'm really into labels. So what are your favorites? And are you a label guy?
I am. Well, part of the thing is before I had so much of a large selection, I mean, the labels really help it stand out and get the attention, which is half the battle in the hot sauce industry, without being overly risque or whatnot. And then I've actually had discussions with other local creators here about like my other side business, because I'm a retailer at heart. I've worked for Pilot Flying J. I was with Seas Candy for 8 years. I've been a retail manager, but also like the advertising and having iconography, and things like that. Like Mythos does a really good simplistic label that has like pictographs, or you
Oh
would
yeah.
think of like hieroglyphic style that is straight, clean, to the point, and it's easily recognizable. And then you got the foils, from like Bayou Gotham, Lucky Dog with their graphics, multi-award winning graphic labels on these, or like Spicy Shark. Again, clean, crisp,
Yeah.
but
I like
still
Spicy
sharp.
Sharks a
They
lot.
just took a Scream and Mimi for their artwork. But I mean, as far as all that's concerned, I mean, that's part of the battle. But also, like, I had a dispute with a local company that I didn't agree with their branding because everything was unique, different fonts on every bottle and things like that. You need some iconography, like, the Apple logo, you know what it is. It's like everyone has their key aspect, either their header title, their text logo. Lucky Dog has the dog in the middle. The Spicy Shark, there's always something. Like you have your title,
Yes.
the Irish Spikes title bar. Pullman Acres has their, I can't think of the word for that symbol. Tim, you can help me out with that.
Yeah, maker's mark or a chop mark or something like that.
Yeah,
It looks like
so
a mandala, right?
the
Little
mandala.
bit,
There you
yeah.
go. That's what I was trying to think of. So, that's part of the thing too, is having a good iconography that is easily recognizable. So even though you're changing the color of the backgrounds or whatnot, or like Zach's new line with the black labels with the different colors, but it has the HDSC on top, they're all immediately recognizable. They're the same brand, but the colors give you the different flavors. And then of course, as Zach knows, you need to read the label every now and then, because I know that he's had some issues with people criticizing his labels and whatnot because they all look the same. But that's part of your iconography. So
Yeah, you have to. That was a big thing for us. That's why we have what we call the label logo plate up at the top, because we wanted to make sure everybody knew who we were, and yet we wanted to be able to have different art.
right, and it gives you a strong enough shelf presence to stand out against your competitors, and then people know, oh, there it is. So, but now that I have 850 sauces across 18 feet, 5 feet deep, layered all the way around, there's so much of that now that it's like people still get, they walk up and are like, dude.
Yeah, that's a lot. I know. When we send to others, have you ever been to Double D Meats in Seattle?
I haven't, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many hot sauces there that people will go there looking for our sauces and get lost. It's just insane how many are there, which is one of the reasons why I've had my view of conventions. It's just when there's so much going on, it makes it hard, to focus in on what you may want.
Right. Well, and then that's another reason too. Like Albuquerque, the trade hours are definitely the networking time, to get it going, because everyone's just going to come in and try to hit as much as they can with the general public. But it's the trade hours that make the difference of the show if it's going to be successful for you or not. It's like Bear River Bottling. had several flavors picked up by Ed Curry. So to have a local Logan sauce picked up by one of the most known hot sauce producers in the world, Pucker Butt, is a major notch in the belt, for brand growth, even though it's not necessarily being distributed in major stores and whatnot, just the fact that Pucker Butt, because of like the networking I built with Dark and Bella of Heat 101 and whatnot. So now that they're working for Ed, Bella was like, "Hey, you got to bring in the ginger tie, and so on, so that networking comes together in those events. So everyone puts a name to the face, then they get to try the sauce themselves, and then you get to bridge out and expand your network from there. So that's where more benefit for the shows are, not necessarily your general customer sales.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll speak to that that benefit as well from the co-packing side. When we first started entertaining the idea of co-packing, it was everyone that we knew from those shows and from those events that initially came to us and said, "Well, you guys are co-packing. Do you want to run our sauce?" And from just knowing people in the industry from those shows, that was probably 80% of our primary clientele.
Oh, wow.
So it's not just the sales to the public. It's a lot of that behind the scenes stuff as well, for sure.
Well, and I imagine a lot of tips just for bottling in general. Just doing this show, it's been like doing a convention where I get to talk to different people about, oh, there's this and there's this and there's this. So much of our process has changed. I mean, talking to you, Tim, I changed so much of our process just based on our conversation. 1 hour, so if you're at a convention next to somebody,
good opportunity to talk about those same problems that we all have as well. Hey, I'm noticing that this happens. Have you guys ever experienced that? And how do you deal with it? And what do I look for? That kind of thing.
Absolutely. And this must be fun for you to hear a couple of makers talking about this stuff, because you're on the other end selling it most of the time. So that's kind of cool.
Right. And actually I was really excited about being like basically your first reseller, although Tim, now congratulations on California Hot Sauce Solutions and the storefront opening recently. But Tim is basically a jack of all trades now. He's a producer, he's a co-packer, he's got retailer, so I'm curious about some things about like your local farmers markets cutting into your storefront, people.
Ours is a little bit different though. Even though it is retail and it is to the public, 90% of the stuff that we're selling there is stuff that we're making. So in my mind, you're analogous to your local bottle shop where you've got bottles from every single beer manufacturer, in the area and even outside of the area, whereas ours is more of a brewery pub where we're just selling the stuff that we make there in-house. We do have a little bit of other guest sauces in there as well, but probably 90% of the stuff that we sell is stuff that we make in-house there.
Right, but I think some of your creators are still doing farmers markets and whatnot for exposure. And in Utah, part of the thing I have with my local creators is that I have to mark it up for retail, which for industry standard is called keystoning, which is you buy it at 5, sell it at 10. Mm-hmm. I do a little bit more because it's a premium product. I'm a premium reseller specialist and specialty store. And then I also give my commission is 25% of my sticker. So I have to make I'm not trying to work for 50 cents a bottle, although I'll even do loss leaders to help some people break out. But I have farmers markets people that just because they make a sauce doesn't mean they know how to price it and sell it without undermining the local market. So they'll flood the market at the farmers market, and then I have it the rest of the time, 6 more days a week, and then it's like it could move a little bit faster. So I was wondering if you were running into that, or if you had like your locked in minimum price requirements for farmers market people.
No, that the people that we're manufacturing for, a lot of them do farmers markets, but a lot of them have a bit more traction than just the farmers market. So they're already dealing with wholesale, they're already dealing with distribution pricing. So they're pretty hip to the game.
Right. Because just because you make a sauce doesn't mean you're a retailer and you know how you should market and how to market it online. Like you said about the web, we were talking about the website where they're awesome at the on the ground game and the swag, but online. And all of us have like a little bit of a weak spot to fill. We just got to get the right people to help us with it.
It's so much to learn. It's always another. I mean, I'm like, this week we started using a steam jacketed kettle. Well, we just tested it, and I'm like pouring through the manual trying to figure. Okay, I've never done this before. We've graduated to a new level. Got to learn something new. It's all something new every single week. Forever. So
the common joke on our end is always like, what's the worst that could happen? Saying that tongue in cheek, knowing that if you don't know about the steam kettle, you can blow up the steam kettle, but you gotta you got to get in there and just doing is learning, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Zach sent me a message, by the way. His mouth's really hurting him. So he decided to exit. Matter of fact, let me send him a quick text real quick and just say, hope you're feeling better.
I'm still here, dude.
Oh, I didn't know you were still here.
I'm just in the
He's right
shadows.
there.
Oh. I was.
Hey, does your face hurt? Because it's killing me. Hey.
I couldn't. I thought you popped off.
Ha, ha, ha. Yeah.
I should have talked. I should have talked some shit about him. God damn it.
Hey, is your steam jacketed kettle, is it direct steam or is it like a gas kettle, electric kettle?
I'd have to talk to actually this week. Kevin did all the reading of the manual. I've got that next week.
Well, you don't have a steam generator, right? It's all self-contained.
Yeah, it's all self-contained.
Okay, so you got to create a vacuum on that kettle before you can start using it.
I'll have to like I said, I got to take a look at the manual. I have not done it. They tested it. It got hot. That's as close as we've come.
Yeah. Well, if
turned
you
it
don't
off
create
after
a
that.
vacuum, you're going to end up blowing it up and hurting a lot of people.
It's a good thing to know. I'll make sure and say that to Kevin.
And
I
can
trust
help you with that.
Sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Because I don't want to blow it up, especially in the middle of the restaurant.
All right. Hopping back off.
All right, last sauce. So it's your Tim. We didn't do this way last time, so I think you could probably jump in on this if you'd like.
Okay.
So it's Death Row hot sauce. You get your last meal. What sauce are you going to have on it?
Roger, you want to go first or you want me to go?
Sure.
Let's go, Roger.
I've had this like question before because always the desert island sauce before, but now it's death row sauce. But I think I'm gonna have to go with it. It's pretty weak, but it's got a lot of flavor. And unfortunately, the company's in transition right now. But it would have been perfect for the island. Caribbean Condiment by Half Moon Bay Trading Company. It's only a cayenne level sauce, but it's got a lot of flavor. Cumin, ginger. It goes pretty much everything. I've been using this for about 15 years. Before I discovered you guys in 2016, I was using this because one of my other diehard sauces is really close. It's the Lucky Dog Dia del Perro.
Oh,
I've been using this continuously since the 2016 Hot Sauce Expo, since I discovered Scott Zakelin.
I've still not tried any Lucky Dog.
He's a great creator. He works the farmers market circuit in his area. Yeah, he's been around for years and years, and he's been at the Albuquerque show for several years straight and so on. But fantastic sauce. It's a nice tomatillo, alderwood smoked serrano sauce. It's got the tang. It's got the zestiness. It's a little bit more vinegar astringent than I'd like, where this is actually tempered. It must be me living in Utah because it has cane sugar in it. No, I was actually using this back when I lived in California. So this one's been around for a long time out of Florida. And so this one I have to go with because I know it goes on everything, but it's just spicy and seasoning with a little bit of zest, not hot. So I'm going to have to go with as the years have progressed, I've backed off let's try to hurt myself while I eat food and going more for flavor first now because, to actually thank you. This is almost like a birthday present because tomorrow is my 54th birthday.
So, hey, congrats.
Hey, happy birthday.
So made it this far. So
we're a month apart. I'm going to be, I'm 2 months. I'm going to be 54 in December.
I'm going to be 42 on the 19th.
Happy early birthday, Zach.
There you go.
It's like
happy birthday to all y'all.
The voice of God just kind of floats in every so often here.
And do you remember that? Do you remember that Muppets in Space skit that used to be on the Muppets, and there would be this big narrator voice, and everybody would kind of look around and try to. That's what I feel like is happening right now.
There we go. All right, so you would go with that one. What would your last meal be? You didn't say your last meal.
Oh, I'm sitting down, but if I wasn't, you'd be able to tell I'm not very picky. So, I mean, I really don't have I'm like, yeah, whatever's on the menu pretty much, but I know I can pour this all over it and it's still going to be good.
Oh, that's a strong recommendation for that sauce then. Unfortunately,
these guys are retiring and I believe it's Hot Shots that's picked them up or distribution. So these will live on. So don't worry, but they're still working on getting everything back in stock from Florida and taking it over. So Hot Shots has rescued this for at least a while longer. So
that's awesome. So Tim, what would your last meal be? And your last meal, what hot sauce would you have on it?
There is a Peruvian restaurant here in Encinitas called Perro, Q''ERO. And they've got this sauce that they've been running out of that restaurant. I think it's a third generation restaurant now, and it is Amarillo and it is panca, and it is just this phenomenally delicious sauce that has a lot of personal connection to me because that's the restaurant that we go to for celebrations. It's just a tiny little Peruvian place. I don't know that I had really been all that familiar with Peruvian food before going to the restaurant, so it just really kind of strikes a chord with me. So I'm going to go with the Perro. And I forget what the name of the sauce is, but I know it's a panca and Amarillo based sauce, and it is phenomenal.
Oh,
That
wow.
on some of their plantain chips are just incredible. For the meal, I've always been a steak and potatoes kind of guy, so I'm pretty easy. For my last meal in prison, just give me a good steak and a baked potato, and I'm happy.
There you go. I think for me, it would be there used to be a place I'm from Riverside, California. So we're all from California. But
don't hold that against us.
Yeah, that's it. And it was called Poppy's Tacos Al Carbone.
Not all of us.
Oh yeah, there you go. Everybody look around. And they had this amazing black bean and rice burrito with jack cheese. It was just, I don't know, there was something special about it. And I would eat that, and I would use just the green Yucateco hot sauce would be great for me.
And what about the meal itself?
Oh, it would be that burrito. The burrito
okay.
from that burrito is fantastic. I would put that green Yucateco on there.
Gotcha.
Although they had phenomenal sauces that they made there in the restaurant, but they can do things that we obviously can't. Does the voice of God want to say what his would be? Nope.
I don't want to talk about food right now because I'm on a soft food diet.
I don't blame you.
Kind of pissed that I can't eat real food.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Roger, do you have any hot sauce hot takes? Things that other people, it's like it's consensus pretty much across the board, but you don't get aligned with it.
Well, actually, I just posted something recently about my business name because I created it 14 years ago. And Burn Your Tongue Hot Sauces is truth in advertising, right? But I like at least a couple times a month, it's like, I don't want to burn my tongue. That doesn't sound fun at all. Oh my goodness. And then I'm like, if you're a hot sauce person, you get it. So, that's just one of the frustrations I live with.
We run into the same problem. So our company name is Hottest Life LLC, and we had that on one of our banners at one point. We're not much different than Utah. We're so close,
right.
in Idaho. And we had, people walking up saying, oh, Hottest Life. I don't want to da. And so I changed the tagline on that to, you don't have to eat the hottest sauce to live your hottest life.
Right. Well, that's like my tagline is SSS for the sizzle. So simply spicy stuff. And that's tying into the snake and the subliminal S in the logo with the snake shape and
I like
other things like that. And so I'm like, all right, well, remember Simply Spicy Stuff because the .com still works and it'll still throw you to BYT. So, but so there's that. But then also like, because I'm not at the stores, I have a problem where one of the articles that referenced me a couple years ago called me the encyclopedian because I try to go off awards lists and I don't try to just be order everything and see what sticks because that costs a lot of money. So I try to order, with some information and whatnot. People will walk up, they'll get analysis paralysis because I'll watch them from the back and see what's going on. And then they have a supercomputer in their pocket that could literally send them to the moon relative to how we got there before, and they won't look anything up. And it's just sort of like, well, I love hot sauce. I see all this hot sauce, but I don't want to pull up my phone and try to figure it out. And unfortunately, it's bad for me because I can't be there all the time. And so it hurts. And I haven't been able to bridge that gap because the Quilted Bear employees have no idea what I sell, about what I sell. They don't even like most of them don't even like hot sauce. It's just sort of like I warehouse it there and they're selling it for me. But that's part of the stuff that's holding me back a little bit. But just getting people to remember either it's like, I was here and I looked at it last time, but I don't remember which one it was. Did you take a picture?
Yeah.
Did you pull this out and do a little bit of Googling? Did you, there's like, you can take a picture and you don't have to remember it out of 850 sauces. You can pull out the phone and Google it real quick and do a screenshot. You can do, there's more ways to remember it. And I can't tell people how to use their phones when I'm not there.
Yeah. And I can't imagine on that level. I can't imagine because we've got 35 to 40 sauces and people walk up and they're like, the last time I was here, I had something like this. And I mean, it takes us 10, 15 minutes sometimes to figure out anywhere near what they might have had.
Somebody asked me about a sauce. It was a Jack Jekyll sauce from like 4 years ago, but it's a butterscotch mustard. So I'm like, that's the only butterscotch mustard I've had, and I haven't seen another one. So that was Jack Jekyll. And so, I remember things like that because it was extremely unique. It had die cut labels, extremely, intense. It's Aaron Mulca was the creator, and he's former Marine like I and Mikey V. So that's another reason why he sticks out in my head. And I sometimes wish that I knew how to make hot sauce so I could get those recipes and resurrect them. He's the one that did the Jack Frost with cinnamon. He's one of the first ones to use cinnamon as a forward ingredient with his Jamaican jerk spice blend. So, and I still have a couple that I don't collect hot sauce normally, but I still have a couple of his set to the side. But yeah, so I remember stuff like that. But I'm pretty good. But when it's like, hey, I had a pineapple mango habanero sauce a year and a half ago, I'm like, I only got 48 of those, So
yeah, I remember I had vinegar and some peppers.
right. Yeah.
My favorite annoyance with people is do you have any without any vinegar in them? No.
Yeah. You get some of those. I
don't like the taste.
I don't like acidic hot sauces. Well, your options are limited.
Yeah, go to the Mexican food restaurant and eat what they got then. Because
I literally had someone at a farmer's market booth tell me I don't like flavor in my hot sauce, and I didn't know what to do with that. I told him, here's a cardboard box and a glass of water. Good luck. Like I didn't know what to do.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Roger, some of my favorite hot takes at retail are always the same questions that you get every single time around. It is, what's the hottest thing you got? Yeah. Have you ever seen hot ones? My uncle grew some Reapers one time, and they're really hot. It's having to have that same conversation over and over and over again with a smile. It gets to be a bit trying for me.
Right. In your story, you should put like a FAQ, like top 10 FAQs. Yeah.
Yes, I've seen hot ones.
Or like the Wayne's World thing, no stairway, no hot ones. Yeah,
right.
I like that. Yeah.
Can you really hit the pH requirements? Because I'm not a producer. So can you hit the pH requirements with like just acetic acid or anything like that? Because there's so many vinegars out there. And I have a local reviewer that absolutely despises the apple cider vinegar. But can you do it with lime juice, lemon juice, acetic acid, things like that? Or do you have to pretty much have the vinegar?
Yeah.
No, yeah, just as long as it's acidic enough to get it below that threshold. Sure, you can hit it. Like the down to ferment guys that work with us at CHSS, they use kombucha, which is an acidified product of sorts that brings the pH low enough. So it does not have to be
right here.
Yeah, there you go.
So, but yeah, because that's a big thing. That's a big thing in Utah is fresh kombucha. Like there's some farmers market booths that like almost every farmers market, at least in the Salt Lake area, it seems to have a kombucha. So, but yeah, that's why I was going to point out about the vinegar aspect.
It does not specifically have to be, a vinegar product. You could do that with citrus. You could do that with, you get creative, a number of different alternatives. It just has to be acidic enough to get it low.
Well, and acetic acid is basically what you use for vinegar anyway. So with that, it's just acetic acid and water essentially for most of the vinegars you get, at least the white vinegars. They're just mixing those two things anyway. How do you feel about really thin sauces?
The vinegar traditional sauces, I mean, they all have their place. We all started from somewhere. Thanks to them, we exist in a way, but I'm not fond of like the flavored vinegar sauce. I don't think a lot of us, especially artists, are. Like, I don't have the space to carry anything in the supermarket. So, it's just, and it's so ubiquitous. It's so all over the place that it's not worth my shelf space.
Yeah. For me, if it doesn't have things in it, then, I'm just adding, I'm not really, it doesn't coat the food well. It doesn't do anything for what I'm using it on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to pour it on the food and then it pours off the food,
yeah.
What was the point? There's a lot of sauces. I mean, like a lot of yours are really thick. And then there's other people. I mean, it's, but you got that fine balance of, is it, I mean, I don't mind having to catch up some stuff out of the bottle every now and then, it's like,
yeah.
But then it gets messy. So it's that fine balance. But yeah, the thicker the sauce, while still being usable, at least it feels like you're getting more value for your money. It doesn't have to be extreme, but it has to make you feel like you got value for that extra dollar amount for being an artist and creator.
I feel like our carrot that's right behind you is a little on the too thin side for me. I've always wanted to thicken it up a little bit. I need to add more carrots to it.
Right.
One of these days we'll get around to it.
I have Tim's Grand Champion right here, going through that one, but I actually like the peach a little bit more, but it's got the flavor, it's got the fruit in it, but it's got the smoked habanero that adds that savory note to it. So it's not a sweet fruit sauce, but it adds a lot of body.
Yeah,
so,
it's got yams and golden beets and carrots and all sorts of what you could consider filler in there as well, kind of thicken it up a touch.
I just had this one today for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Tim,
Nice.
that's, I think, one of the most brilliant sauces I've ever seen.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. It is phenomenal. Absolutely. And I love the smoked habanero also. Or smoked pepper, I'm sorry. Yeah, both of them I tried for the first time today, and they were fantastic. I tried the pumpkin a couple days ago.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that one.
Yeah, that's really good sauce.
I did that one in 2018, so it's been about 5 years since that one's been out. I got a really good reaction the first time around, and then every year since then, we've just had a ton of crazy stuff going on that I didn't have a chance to get back and revisit it. This is the first year where I said, all right, we're going to go back and try and release that one again. And I only ran like 25, 30 gallons of it. So it's not a lot. It's just enough for the season.
I was expecting it to like really hit me because I'm so used to ours. And I was so pleasantly surprised. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. So I'm really excited I want to try it on a turkey sandwich.
I try to make it light enough on the heat so that everyone at the Thanksgiving table can approach it. I want, Aunt Edna to be able to put some of that onto their stuffing and not be overpowered by it.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we do go ahead, Roger. Yes.
Well, I was going to segue into something real quick about as far as you guys, as creators and whatnot. Now we're talking about ingredients and thin versus thick and whatnot, but what about trends in the hot sauce? Because black garlic came and has stayed, but there's two trends that I don't think any of the three of you do, is the pickle sauces. And this year I've seen a lot more citrus sauce, especially. I mean, I know that your unicorn blood is what hooked me on your brand, and it has the blood orange now switched to regular orange, from what I understand. And then so you have orange. You're one of the first, but then there's like Colorful Colorado Creations that has an angry orange, and so does Hellfire. They also did a tangerine. So I'm seeing a lot more citrus this year. The pickle trend is still clicking along. And then, but now I've noticed a little bit more citrus coming out in sauces. So are you guys planning on catching up on either the pickle and or citrus trends soon? Because you both have black garlic stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if I will.
I had done a blood orange sauce a while back. The name of the sauce was a spoof on a Waylon Jennings song. It was called Lonesome Orangey in Mean instead of Lonesome Henri in Mean, which is the Waylon song. And that one, I don't think that the citrus really went over very well at the time. Like I did have a few people that were really into it, but as far as being a great seller, I don't think the citrus did all that well. So I may revisit that one at some point, but that's mainly because I like the sauce and it's kind of an old friend of mine necessarily, not because it's a trend, but we tend to use citrus in a lot of products that we do. So we don't really have citrus specific sauces, but we do have a lot of sauces that include citrus as part of the palette.
Our lemon peppers, obviously, very citrus forward, and that one's been doing really well. Matter of fact, I would say unicorn blood is our most popular sauce. We've now, because the lemon pepper habanero started doing well, we just made lemon pepper serrano. When the lemon pepper serrano is, I think, eventually going to overtake unicorn blood as our top seller.
Wow. That's hard to believe.
Because I just pour it all over everything all the time. And I like the lemon juice that we're getting for it. It's a really high grade lemon juice, and it just really pops in your mouth. So it's been really nice.
Right. And the lemon too, that's another aspect, because like Lemon Reaper Creeper from the Colorful Colorado Creations, that's a really good one that sells really well too. People are still getting used to it, but I mean, it works well on, pretty much more white meat, fish, shrimp, things like that. So it doesn't really transfer to beef that well. But yeah, just some trends that I noticed as a seller. I noticed like certain trends coming, like sort of fall off. But the citrus one, it seems to be picking up steam again this year.
And everybody's doing a chili crisp now.
Yeah, and chili crisp. And I have one of those made right here in Salt Lake City called Chili Beak.
I wanted to do one. I think I was looking into it 2.5, 3 years ago, and I just didn't know I couldn't find a process authority that could, or anybody, a food scientist that could tell me anything about how to process it. And I kind of got lazy about it. I probably should have kept going. I just didn't know.
You couldn't find anybody such as a process authority to tell you about it because
Well,
it's not an acidified product.
Well, I asked our
That's-
process authority is what I meant by that is I asked our process authority, hey, do you know anything about processing this? And he said, nope. I asked a couple more people and didn't go any further with it, and I should have.
You have to get a
There-
water activity test.
They're typically going to be oil and dry ingredients.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it typically falls outside of a acidified canned food.
Awesome.
Our problem with products like that, and we get a lot of inquiries about those sorts of things, is the amount of oil that's required for those. We don't want a steam jacketed kettle filled with hot oil. We've actually done that on a couple of products before, and with mixed results. Some of them worked okay. Some of them were just pure disaster. If there's a lot of oil, we typically shy away from it. That's not our specialty, and we don't want that much hot oil at any given time.
Yeah. That was my thoughts on it. That was one of the reasons why I kind of dropped it was that the thought of hot oil just did not sound like a good idea.
It's not. It's terrible.
Right. And then you have to complicate your own production process with different jars and labels and all this other stuff. And then if you stick to your 5 and your squeeze, your 8-ounce squeeze bottles, then your production keeps flowing easily versus throwing it like I think it was you or somebody else that was talking about like, oh, let's try Boston Rounds and let's try this shape and let's try that bottle. And then, all these random bottles that are out there, and they're sort of a pain for me too, because where I should be able to put 3 bottles, now I can only put 2. So I lose
Right.
the facing, I lose real estate, I lose the opportunity to sell another bottle, blah, 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 with the Boston Rounds, especially like 8s, so it's like, it takes up 1.5, 5-ounce woozy spots. So it's like, I lose facings that way. So
I know somebody that got, go ahead, Tim.
The particulates in those oil products as well. If you have a steam jacketed kettle filled with oil and filled with particulate, the particulate's going to settle to the bottom. You have the oil at the top, and trying to figure out how to actually fill that in a way that makes sense has been a serious challenge historically for us.
Oh, I bet.
Tim, I have the
Yes, sir.
solution. We can make it happen.
Do tell.
I can't wait to hear this, but he's talking about off the air.
Yeah, we'll talk about it after the fact.
I was
Well,
waiting
like-
for the punchline.
Right, well, like from
The
photos I've
punchline
seen,
comes off camera.
it looked like you would put the dry spice in the jars first and then fill over the top with the hot oil. And then I don't know, I would still assume you invert it and all that stuff for I'm only Japanese smart on the processing, and I've been in Bear River Bottling's kitchen a couple times, so that way I could experience start to finish. And I'm grateful for that because I worked with other people that I never even saw a photo of a kitchen, but we won't go there.
Right.
So
Sorry, I had to chime in.
right, I figured you appreciate that. But yeah, different processing and whatnot. Like I have one sauce I carry that is an olive oil based garlic sauce that uses fresh cut garlic. It's Grandma Sandino's Sicilian sauce. It's my only local sauce. It's not a hot sauce, but they're absolutely amazing. I use their stuff often, and I'm actually getting ready to do a Christmas show with them because I have no problem selling their stuff to the hilt. So, but they use dry spice blend in theirs, and then they have about 10-15% red wine vinegar by volume for the acidic factor and whatnot. But they get about a 3-year shelf life out of it due to the dry spice blend in there. But it's olive oil and it's olive oil based. So
Interesting. Hot sauce show and tell.
all right. So Bear River Bottling, they got a lot of stuff coming up, and when they end up on the show here pretty soon. So what they recently did is they again with the bottle sizes and a little bit of supply chain issues, not getting them, just shrink wrapped in a big pallet like you did recently, but the 8-ounce Lightning Buffalo sauce, which is a sauce for a cause, with part of it going to cystic fibrosis. They actually tightened it up, took out some of the vinegar, made it so that way we can get more on the shelf. So it's a 5-ounce bottle now, but instead of using the pre-diced garlic in water, they're actually using fresh minced garlic in it, and then they've tightened it up with the vinegar. So you can add more vinegar and get the volume back, add butter for your wings, things like that. But this one larger bottle that's random versus their barbecue sauce or their 5-ouncers is now gone, hence the bottle issues. So streamlining operations and making it a tighter, more flavorful, garlic forward wing sauce.
So Spike, real quick, not to interrupt you, Roger.
Of course.
Bear River actually has a real bacon hot sauce, and I know it took forever to get that process approved, right? Like 3 years or something.
I'm not familiar with all the background. I know that it does have real bacon in it without giving away any secrets and whatnot. But it's my understanding that without the FDA being there, they can do it with a low percentage. I believe he said it's 3%
Oh,
without
okay.
That-
committing anything.
That actually makes some sense because when we were first looking into, we did our first pizza hot sauce, and I was talking about, I thought, I wonder if I could put parm in it. And when we were getting grilled by the Washington State Agriculture, they were, telling us, checking us out, checking our facility out and everything. I said something about that, and they said, "Oh, as long as it's under a certain amount, you can." I forgot all about that until just now, Roger.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt Hot Sauce Show and Tell. That just clicked in my head.
No, you're good.
We
And
talked
I
about fat
know that you've
I-
talked about like butter and whatnot before, and
Yeah.
with animal fats, there should be an FDA person there or a USDA person there
USDA.
watching your process, USDA. And so, like I said, I don't know enough about, and I actually have a couple ideas for hot sauce brands myself that I've been poking around with for like 5 years. I need to get off the pot or get on it. Over the last couple of years, hot sauce in Utah has really jumped up. But for a long time, it was just a few major companies, Bear River being one of them. But yeah, this year, literally, we've had like 6 pop up.
I-
So,
All right.
They're
Back to
everywhere.
Hot Sauce Show and Tell. I'm sorry.
oh, no, you're good. But that was it. Basically, Bear River Bottling, it's brand new, but the new smaller bottle, but it's a tighter sauce. Because here you got the vinegar looseness, and then here it's nice tight. It shifts instead of, this is the ketchup thing we're talking about.
Yeah, I like
And then
that.
it's got fresh garlic in it versus a pre-diced garlic with water. And so it's got a little bit more fresh garlic flavor forward.
That's
Did
a great.
you say that
So-
larger one was a? Did you say that larger one was an 8-ounce woozy,
Yeah,
or is it a 10-ounce woozy?
it's 8 ounce according to the bottle,
By
So-
weight or fluid ounce?
fluid ounce. So
Okay, interesting. I don't know. I've ever seen an 8-ounce woozy. That's neat to see.
I've
did
seen
see
them in a few places, but they were hard to get.
yeah,
I saw it.
and that's part of the problem too. Like we were talking about all these unique bottles that you started with this, but now it makes sense to streamline operations when you can, especially because, like I said, when he ends up on the show, by then he's probably going to have at least one new flavor out. Plus, he's got some other stuff in the works on the barbecue side because they also do that too.
I
Awesome.
saw a 3-ounce woozy earlier in the week, and that one kind of blew my mind. I think that was the first time I ever saw that. I don't know that I've ever seen an 8. That's neat to see.
Right?
Was the 3-ounce woozy that you saw? Did it have the super narrow? I got some at one time, and the neck was so narrow that it was useless.
It was pretty tiny. It was a pretty thin sauce that was presented in the bottle, so it wasn't a problem. But I think if it was anything thicker than that, it may have been problematic.
I had an
Right.
executive somewhere try and get me to use those, and I was like, "Do you know how long it would take for us to bottle a batch with those?"
Well, and then the same thing with Half Moon Bay Trading Company. They actually called them deuces, and they were 2 ounce with a skinny neck for their minis. But yeah, so I mean, I've asked John about that too, and he's like, "Yeah, filling them is just a nightmare unless you have the special equipment and the nozzles."
It
and all
is.
that. Basically, you want
Yeah.
to have it on a fill line that's going to deal with all that hassle for you. But
Yeah.
trying to fill them by hand with a a pour or anything else like that, you just
Well, that was the guy who was, I think it was like Go Guy or something, was like, "Hey, Tabasco has these purse size." And I'm like, "Well, that's Tabasco." I
Yeah.
don't have Tabasco money, man.
That is correct.
right. And then the only other minis I see that have a wider mouth are the Arizona Gunslinger and the Arizona it's ass kicking, but I can't think of the Arizona Pepper Products is I think their actual name, but they have the little 1 ounce plastic bottles.
Yeah,
they have
sure.
a little bit of a wider mouth. So
We had actually filled a 1/2-ounce Boston at one point for a tincture project, and we've run that a couple of different times. And oh man, those 1/2 ounces are just brutal.
Yeah, no,
We can get
couldn't.
away. You can get away with that small of a volume with something like a tincture, where the cost per ounce is significantly higher because it's that much more concentrated. But that doesn't solve the fill problem. It's still a ginormous pita,
Yeah.
nice.
if I may.
Yes.
So, what's your hot sauce show and tell, Tim?
I did not bring a hot sauce show and tell, but
Oh,
I can riff off of one that Roger showed earlier, which is the Lucky Dog Dia del Perro. Familiar with the sauce, and it is a phenomenal sauce. Like Lucky Dog quite a bit, and Scott was one of the gentlemen when I first got into the industry. When I was getting into it, he was winning every award that there was. So I just reached out to him, cold called him one day. Hey, Scott, how you doing? Hey, would you mind trying my sauce and checking this out? And I sent him some stuff up. We started chatting back and forth a bit at the time. Met him at one of the hot sauce expo. I think it was the Long Beach Expo, first time I met him. And then to this day, we chat every other day. It seems we're going back and forth. He's
nice.
Great guy, great sauce. So I'm perfectly happy to piggyback on the deal del Perro for today.
I'm gonna check him out now. I'm gonna order some
Scott
bottles
is
right after
booked
this
for the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
January 14th.
Yeah, get Scott on.
That's awesome. Well, we're well into January now. Holy moly, I got to look at the calendar. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So-
bro, your boy's been busy.
Yeah, you have.
Oh yeah.
God, I'm reminded of. Do you remember that movie from the '80s, Real Genius, with Val Kilmer as like in a
Yes.
school of geniuses? And I've got this thing that he had a microphone he put into some kid's braces, and he goes, he says something like, "This is God," and he's like, oh, "God," and you're beating off too much.
Good, wholesome 80s humor.
That's it. Yeah. This one that I've got, it kind of breaks all the rules for me. So I posted one of our little clips. Tim, it might have been yours. And I said, "What's your desert island hot sauce?" And somebody posted this company, Binko's. So I thought, what the hell? I'll give it a shot. It's delicious. Now there's a couple of things that I gotta say. Actually, there's two sauces. I don't know where I put the other one, but this is the habanero, and there's a Fresno, and I don't know where the Fresno one went, but it's almost gone. Oh, it's right here. The Fresno is delicious, but it's really mild. So I just been pouring it like crazy, but they're both delicious. Zach, they'd be a little salty for you. Let me see what the salt is. No, it says 75, but I think it's higher than that. You know how that is.
Is it as salty as Pico Pica?
Is anything?
Fuck.
No, it's not as salty as Pico Pica.
Then it'd be fine.
Reading glasses on. But I'll tell you what you wouldn't like about it. First of all, it's super thin. My big gripe about this, Binko's people, I haven't reached out to these guys yet, but it's a delicious sauce. But it's keep the pour top. What are those things called? The little pour top thing. Oh my God. Get those
Orifice
out of
reducer
there.
is what we call them.
Yeah, just get those out of there. That's ridiculous.
The fun stopper.
Yeah, exactly. They're a little on the thin side, but they're not too thin. Like they're using xanthan gum with it. It coats nicely, and I'm telling you, they're just delicious sauces, and they kind of break all the rules for me. But they have, Tim, I know this is a pet peeve for you. They've got smoke put in there, and it still works. I love when somebody's able to break the rules and make it work, and they did it, man. I've been eating this stuff like crazy, and I didn't expect to at all. So
I'm not 100% anti-smoke. It's just there's a limit at which it gets exceeded for me.
yeah, that's how I feel.
I'll tell you one thing about the Binkos is that they're using a gold top, which historically trying to source those on my end, they're rarer than hen's teeth more often than not. So good on them for actually finding a source on those.
Well, I think they might have lost their source because they've got it on this one, but they don't have it on this
Okay.
one.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, I thought about that when I saw it too.
Right. Well, and then something from a retailer standpoint, plus it helps with if you save a couple cents by not putting on those flow restrictors, and then it saves a little bit of step in your production. As a retailer, if you have a little bit of thinner sauce without a flow restrictor and they accidentally overpour, they're gonna have to come back and see me a little bit more often. Sorry
Absolutely.
about that,
I've had people ask for them.
So
And we have people come
ahead.
into our shop asking us if they can get flow restrictors on their product that we'll manufacture for them. My answer is always yes, we will, but it's going to cost you a bit more money because one, we have to pay for the raw materials, and two, we actually have to stand there and put them on because there's no machine that can put those things on. And I give them this long rap about why you shouldn't use flow restrictors. I say, number one, you're paying more money to prevent your customer from using your product or to use it much slower. As a hot sauce enthusiast, I tell them, hey, I'm taking off my manufacturer's hat and putting on my hot sauce enthusiast hat now. I hate those things. The very first thing I do when I get one is pop it off.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how thin the sauce is. So I try to talk people out of them all the time. But at the same time, there are some brands that just say, no, the brand requires that these be on there. And we say, okay, no, we'll do that. But I had to give you that wrap before we could agree to do it for you.
Yeah. Well, it's a delicious sauce. Both of them, they're the same recipe, essentially. It's red pepper, habanero or Fresno, and smoke, and a few other things. I can't see it now because I changed my glasses back. But
where are they out of? Where do they call home?
They're it's on the Pennsylvania-Ohio border.
Oh, right on.
I can't say the name of it. It's Pymatuning Lake. That's it's the Pymatuning Lake Chili Company.
Interesting.
And this one's called Cool Hand, and this one's called Lucky 32.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is my old stomping grounds there in the Ohio Valley.
Is it really?
Many lifetimes ago, yeah.
Small world.
Yeah. Well, it's delicious sauce. I'd like to get them on the podcast one of these days and I'm going to try some more of theirs. So
have you figured out if they're legal? Because Pennsylvania has cottage law for acidified foods.
Well, everything on their label looks legal. They have the full setup on here.
That doesn't mean shit, dude. So here's the thing. Pennsylvania.
We're in the hot takes. We're back in hot takes.
Yep, we are back in hot takes. PA has cottage law for acidified foods. However, they require you to get a process letter.
Interesting.
But if you don't register with the FDA, you're still operating under cottage law and can't sell over state lines.
Well, I don't know. And to some degree, I feel like I don't want to like be a detective and find out for everyone. If it looks, I can usually tell, you know what I mean? Like I can usually go, no, something's not right about that. They look like they've dotted their I's and crossed their T's. And I feel like they're there, but yeah, I get it. Especially knowing a couple of these states where they can kind of get away with things that they shouldn't be able to get away with.
Definitely way more strict than Texas. Like I said, they require if you go through the proper channels to get a cottage law in Pennsylvania, you are required to also send your shit off to a process authority. So you're basically FDA approved, but if you don't register and do all the FDA shit, then
I'll reach out to them. I like their products, so I definitely will reach out to them and see what's up. So,
and as a segue to that, I have a question about that because it was about 5 years ago. I actually got closed for almost a month because I had illegal sauce basically. And I didn't know it because I was just buying stuff online. It looked good, everything else. But apparently my inspector got a burr and found something that wasn't certified. They wanted me to go through and pull everyone's canning licenses and all that. I'm like, K-John's been in the industry for 20 years at this point. I think they're good, and stuff like that. So I've actually gotten bitten by that before, where I was only authorized to sell Utah product. Everything else I had to recertify, get the packing or basically their processing authority license number. And eventually they calmed down on that a little bit. I was like, look, there's no way I can check all this. People in the industry were like, we've never had anyone ask for that. I don't feel comfortable giving it to you because you don't really need it. It's none of your business. I'm like, yeah, but I'd like to still carry your stuff. And so it got into a real gray area. So I've actually been hit with that personally. But like I said, they've come down on that a lot now. And I usually just go through major like well-known people, like you've been around for a long time. Tim, we know that you're official and whatnot, but anyone that's like on the fence, that's out of state, or that's like, oh, I found you on Etsy. No, I don't do that anymore. So, so I mean, that literally can happen and you can get shut down for that. That's something on the creator side. If they're not careful, they can hurt a business.
And they shouldn't have an issue giving you their FCE.
No, they shouldn't. But
agreed.
If it's never ever been asked for before, because just a random incident. But I got over it, and then I don't order from extremely low batch people anymore unless and that's one of the first things I'll ask. And I've actually had people like ghost me afterwards. I'm like, are you certified to sell across state lines, FDA approved? And they ghost me or like, oh, what? No, I sell at farmers markets. I'm like, well, that doesn't mean you can sell it to me, or you should be selling it on Etsy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that in the industry. And I know you guys have said, like, you see a lot, like almost 50% of people. And there's some other, because it's like on Etsy, like in Utah, you can sell direct to consumer. Well, on Etsy, you're selling direct to consumer. It's just over state lines. So is that a gray area that because you're selling it direct to consumer, it's just they're not face to face in front of a farmer's market in the state.
Do you have cottage law for acidified foods up there?
What's that? We do. I don't know all about it. I mean, I should just do it just to fill in some of my back knowledge because people ask me about it because I'm the largest hot sauce seller in
So
Utah.
technically, and I'll use like Pennsylvania for an example. If you're operating under cottage law and they say direct to consumer, it means farmers markets only. You can't do wholesale. You can't have a web presence. You can't, like, you can set your booth up and sell it hand to somebody.
Right. I knew they couldn't sell to me if they were just cottage law certified. And there's actually, I can't think of the House Bill 183 or something like that. But yeah, I wasn't sure if Etsy was still legal for them because it's still direct to consumer, but not local. But I know
It's
that
not
those
a
people,
hand-to-hand
right? I know
transaction.
those people can't resell to me, and there's several that I'd like to have, but they either don't want to resell because they don't have economy of scale, they don't want to lose the margin, or they're not certified for resale, so they don't want to jump through those hoops yet. So there's other ones that are in the wings that I've actually wanted to carry, but they're like, we're not there yet. We don't want to push that. We're doing fine on our own. Maybe someday. Because I'm advocate for hot sauce for Utah because when I moved from Southern California, it's all over the place. Here, when I got here, it wasn't very much so. And my palate sucks, which is why I send it out to everyone else to do reviews because they have trusted palates where mine is not necessarily so trustworthy. I'm like, yeah, that's spicy. Okay. So that's why I send all Utah products out to the Kendall Statler, Tasting the Heat, KDB Saucy, back when Bill Moore. I've sent stuff to just the whole network of reviewers I could that weren't going to start selling it on their own. But that's why it's because I don't have a refined palate, but I still love hot sauce, but I want to get the word out for people. So
Yeah, that's always been nice.
Yeah.
You've sent our stuff to a couple different people that have gotten in contact with us as a result. I always appreciate that.
even though you're not in Utah, but you still deserve help getting the word out.
Thank you.
You're not too far from Utah.
No, not too far. And Roger's had our stuff on the news. I mean, he's been really good to us. So we appreciate that.
I tried to get you pictures from a competitor that had it on the grocery store shelves that wouldn't send you pictures. I'm like, here's some pictures.
He did,
you
yeah.
didn't end up using them. And I'm like,
I did. I put them up as a story, though.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, here's some pictures from my competitor, but it wasn't me highlighting a competitor. It was me getting you info so you could tell your brand info.
Yeah, I appreciated that a lot. I felt a little awkward about it because I know that they got the idea from us from your place. They had to have. It was like a chain of stores in his area that contacted us for, I don't know, it was like 20 or 30 cases of hot sauce. They had to have been staking out your store and checking stuff out.
Good stuff.
I will
Good
say,
stuff.
on the topic of whether a brand owner is legal or not, I will say that it's not easy information to figure out as a brand owner, to figure out what red tape and loops that you need to jump through in order to become legal. I started doing this in California, which, as everyone knows, is a little more ridiculous than some of the other states, for example. And it wasn't easy to figure out what I needed to do to get myself legal. And it honestly took me, at least I got to a point where I knew I was good. But in order to get shelf stable and go through the whole cannery process, that probably took me about a year. So I got to a point where I was legal and I could sell at farmers markets. I could sell online, but in order to get through the entire cannery process, probably took me about a year. And I think that all the states are different. They all have their own unique laws. Some of them defer to the FDA, some of them don't. So I think there are a lot of brand owners out there with good intentions who are trying to get legal, but they may have missed that dotting the I or dotting the J or something else along the way. If they're local, I typically reach out to them and say, hey, saw you're new to the scene, just, wanted to start a conversation with you. And there are some people that I've spoken to just in my tenure here that are trying to do the right thing, trying to be above board, but they missed that extra last step that they didn't even know was a step. So I would encourage kind of all the brand owners out there, if you're in the game and you're well versed in what's required in your own area and you encounter somebody new to help pull them the rest of the way, if you see that they're struggling to get over that finish line.
Well, and honestly, out here, again, John of Bear River Bottling, he's been really helpful with other small batch creators like Lisa's Hot Sauce that was doing fermentation. They asked me, I referred them to John, and Lisa's actually pulled back from some local stores down there because I'm like, I don't think you're ready for retail. And then John knows more, because he actually makes sauce. I just resell it. I have some Jeopardy level knowledge about it. But Lisa's, I actually applaud them for pulling back and getting more certifications done and whatnot. Now they're legal for local. I sent them to KTB Saucy, but I can't sell them online yet. They got a few more steps to go through, but I wanted to get the exposure for them just to get the word out. But they did what they needed to do to pull back and become certified and work through the process. But for you guys, do you think there's like, because I see this all the time in groups and people asking me just because I happen to sell it, and I'm like, you got 4 locations, you got 850, you must know something about it. Yeah, but not, I can't certify you on anything. So it's like, I know that like in Utah, we have an acidified foods class that we're supposed to take. I've been Serve Safe certified, things like that. But if you had to follow the requirements, the cottage industry requirements of one state, like California has a lot more hoops to go through. Do you think following California's process would get you through pretty much every other state as far as a guideline?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's
Perfect.
one of the things that's helped us. So when Washington is stricter, I don't think anywhere near as strict as California, but it's way more strict than Idaho. So we originally were bottling right over the border in Washington, and that's what I was talking about. Those 2 people that came down, they were grilling us. They were tough, and they walked through everything, checked through everything. And when we came to Idaho, it was like, no, as long as you're covered by the FDA, we don't care. I mean, they do care, but the difference is because we went through that in Washington, we've been much more strict here in Idaho, whereas I don't know how strict we would have been not knowing that we had to be.
Well, something else I have just one more little fill in on that. So depending on the state cottage laws, if they're looser or stricter, once you get to the FDA requirement, if you haven't followed all the minimums of the FDA, then does the FDA have different requirements? I know they have the labeling requirements and all the other stuff like that, but the process of the food itself, is that all state? And then FDA is more your final processes, your final approvals, your labeling, all that stuff? Like
Depends
more
on
of the finished product than the starting product.
It depends on the state, because I guess Texas right now is like a fucking free for all.
Right. I know you're like they're in the Wild
You can
West.
bottle wherever you want. You know what I mean? And
Right.
Texas is allowing those people to not only do farmers markets, but they can do expos. You know what I mean? Here in Arizona, there is no cottage law for acidified foods. California, there is no cottage law for acidified foods. Pennsylvania obviously is more strict than Texas. I haven't read up on Utah cottage laws because it's not really come up.
Right.
But it sounds like Utah is probably more strict than Texas. And
Right.
ultimately, take Pennsylvania, for instance. By the time you become certified for cottage food production for acidified foods in Pennsylvania, you are literally just one step away from being FDA approved. And that's going and registering all of your shit on the FDA website.
And that's the hardest thing, though, is that website's a maze.
Yeah. Fuck that website.
all of those government websites are just atrocious. It'll link you from one area to another, and it looks like they were both built by the lowest contractor, and neither one of them communicate correctly. Any of those governmental websites are just.
It's the old standard. I'm
horrendous.
from the government and I'm here to help.
Yes. Hey, to get back to your question, though, about how someone just getting into the industry can have a confidence in that what they know is what they need. If you take a better control processing class, the one that I took was through UC Davis. Those are kind of considered to be the gold standard. So long as you're doing what they're telling you in that class and documenting all that along the way, you're going to be in good standing no matter who you end up working with as an ultimate overseer.
Right.
And I understand.
Utah,
go ahead.
Well, I know in Utah that there's an acidified foods course, and I know it's different than a canning course, kind of thing. So I think that's what you're talking about. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, it is different. And I understand that when I got mine, definitely when you got yours, which I think the Davis one, when I started to get mine, I think they were phasing out the Davis one. Am I wrong about that?
No, I think it's still there.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, I also understand that because I actually looked at the Davis one, and maybe it was an off time or something. As far as online, I think that online they were phasing it out.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And I might be wrong, but because of COVID, a lot of them have not only come back, but I believe there's one at Wazoo, WSU here near us now. I don't know if it's a regular, better food handling or not. Because I don't need it. They send me emails saying, hey, if you want to take this class. And I'm like, nope. But I got mine through Tennessee. I think Zach, you got yours through Tennessee too, right?
I have two of them actually. I got one through Tennessee, and then I got one through NC State, North Carolina State.
And I've heard about the North Carolina State one.
So you don't have to take one through your state. You just have to take one that's certified by the FDA or approved.
Correct.
And then 98% of it you don't need, but the other 2% you really do need.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's worth it. But it's like 8 hours and like $400.
Sort of like ServSafe.
I've never used a retort machine, for example, but I kind of know what they are and how they conceptually work. So I guess that's positive.
I found it mildly interesting, but I was really annoyed at having to learn all about it. I might have delved more into it if it wasn't forced on me, I think. Yeah, I think that people would do more if the map was laid out a little easier for them and they didn't have to go by so much hearsay on message groups and this and that. Yes. It's ridiculous. That's the biggest.
I got into an argument today about, I don't even know, you got to have 5% vinegar to stabilize your acidified food properly. I Googled plenty of shit for this guy, like 4% you can use, but there's no guarantee it's going to stop the growth of microorganisms, the whole fucking nine. Screenshot, sent him. And this dude argued with me in my DMs for like a fucking hour about how I'm wrong. And he was on the phone with the fucking FDA and he asked the fucking questions. And I'm like, dude, some schmo at the FDA does not trump what you learn in your Better Process Control certificate. And it does not trump what it says in CFR.
Well, and he was saying the same thing as you anyway. You let me read those. And he said, put 5% vinegar and then add water and make it 4%. Well, that's still using 5% vinegar. He was agreeing with you.
He's saying you can reduce that 5% vinegar to 4%, and it still stabilizes the product the way it's supposed to.
I mean, I essentially do that with a few of our sauces where we add water in it. But
so when do you add that water? Do you grind all your shit up in the water and then acidify everything, or are you adding the water and the vinegar at the same time?
No, I'm not adding the water to the vinegar at the same time. But in the end, it all ends up together. So it ends up doing that to it anyway. But as long as your end result is the right pH, you're okay.
I'm more concerned about how this gentleman was able to get the FDA on the phone. If we could go back to that, was able to reach a government entity via the landline
on Sunday.
Not today specifically. Oh. He was just saying in general.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I've called those guys and they don't know anything at all. You know, they try and pawn you off on the website as soon as possible.
It is. This is shit. People, man. People. Fucking people.
You know what, you were sending me those texts and I was so happy and giddy because I just love seeing. I mean, it's just silliness, these people, you know, trying to find ways around
you're doing so much work to find the fucking loophole. You could have just fucking done it right.
Yeah.
And then done.
I had a wonderful experience with a new guy because I'm always open when people new are asking questions. I'm always open. There was a guy in Boise who contacted me. I can't remember his name or else I would actually say it because it made me so happy. He called me and I said, first off, I'm like, if you're not willing to do this stuff, I'm not willing to help you. Just, you need to be willing to go and take care of this stuff. There's a ton of what I call cowboy hot sauce guys out there. Just, you know, they don't give a shit. They're just going to do what they want to do. And he says, no, I'm willing to do it. And I was like, okay. I mean, they'll all say that. And then in the end, they won't. And about 4 months later, I get this email and he was like, holy shit, you're right about all these cowboy. I couldn't believe how many people are not willing to go the extra mile. It was so refreshing to know I got through to one, you know, but that one means that one guy's making good sauce and he's going to probably stick around.
Teach someone else along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Well, that's something else referring back to, like, are there certain names and whatnot that I don't like or that I thought were going to sell better and whatnot? Because that's the thing is, if you're willing to go through all the stuff we just talked about to get your sauce on a shelf, it's a favorite to somebody, or it's a favorite to a regional area, or it's a favorite to the geographic influence of like your state or whatnot. But just because it doesn't work in Utah doesn't mean it's not going to work in 18 other states. There's so much hot sauce out there because it's like people are like, how many times can you put pineapple, mango, habanero, salt, vinegar together?
It's kind of like songwriting. If you ask how many times can you play a C chord, into an E chord, or I'm not a musician, but the analogy stands. Like, how many times can you play the same notes? Well, it's not necessarily the same notes. It's the pattern that you put them in that you can come up with, 27 different songs off the same chord progression.
Right, without pulling out my
60s.
math book and talking about permutations and stuff like that.
What did you say, Zach?
I said, look at the 60s. CGDA.
Yep.
Every fucking song in the 60s.
Yep. And the 50s, it was, they had that same pattern, the Duke of Earl pattern over and over and over. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Obviously, when you're editing this, if it's hard to make out what I'm saying, you can obviously just edit out whatever the fuck I'm saying.
I think we've all understood you pretty well, right?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear.
Well, did you have any other questions for us, Roger?
Not that I can think of offhand. I really appreciate you having me on the show, all of you guys. But I think it was great too. Did you have any other questions from like a retail standpoint or anything else like that? Since I'm like the first retailer's been on, not counting Tim, but he's like a hybrid.
Yeah, I'm not a real retailer. Pseudo retailer.
Right.
Tim, you're doing what we're talking about doing, which is having our own little store. And we've been kicking that around a little bit. I don't know. I think we would only do one. I don't think we would be like Pepper Palace and try and
right
duplicate them, but who knows? Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate having you. This has been wonderful. And I appreciate you carrying all of our sauces.
Likewise.
God?
Yeah. Actually got to go pack up a wholesale order for Roger tomorrow. Tim, I would like to thank you for stepping in as a co-host today because, my mouth's not doing well and I talk funny.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me once again. I appreciate it.
Yes,
yeah,
perfect.
Tim, it's been great having you here. Hey, there we go. Now I'm back.
Hey.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Roger. We really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much for all the time. I know we went a little long, but you'll cut this down to
I will.
half an hour.
Yeah. Good talking to all you guys.
Take care now.
All right. Tim's got to piss. So we'll see y'all later.
Like a racehorse.
You need to do your outro before we click out.
That was it.
No.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
That's it.
I've got a little thing. I just plug it in.
Oh, actually, something else I was going to do because I need to push some sales to the
Hang on one sec. Tim, thank you for coming. Go do what you got to do.
I'll see you guys.
Take care, Tim. Bye.
And then as we're wrapping this up, my online store is burnyourtongueonline.com. And I'm going to throw out a special podcast discount, FBH podcast, discount code FBH podcast for Flavor Balance Heat. And then it'll be 20% off. And then I'll code it to code FBH podcast, 20% off through the end of November. So that includes Thanksgiving, Black Friday, all that.
Awesome.
So
Thank you so
for
much.
having me on.
You're welcome. You have a good one now.
Take care.
Bye. Flavor Balance Heat, the podcast for hot sauce lovers and makers, was brought to you by Irish Spike's Unique Hot Sauces, High Desert Sauce Co., and Vandal Pepper Sauces. This is a Spike Mine Media production.